pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the January 17th Board Public Affairs meeting. First on the agenda is to approve the minutes for the January 3rd meeting. Everybody had a chance to go over them. Are there any additions or corrections?
Mr. Chairman, seeing no changes, I make a motion we approve.
Second.
Jim?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Second on the agenda is a hearing of public concerns. None. To move on. Clerk-Treasurer's report.
The board's been presented with the Clerk-Treasurer's report for the month ending December 31st, 2016.
I move we accept the treasurer's report.
Second.
Karen?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Next would be a discussion on the city-owned rental properties.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board's been presented with a variety of information concerning the 4 residential single-family homes that were purchased over the number of years by the board for a couple different purposes, mainly just because they are all adjacent to existing facilities that the board manages, and to either expand those facilities or have a buffer for those facilities, I think was the rationale behind the purchasing of the 4 properties in the first place. We evaluated what we're doing with them currently. 3 of them have rental tenants in them. 1 of them is vacant, and they're in various degrees of repair or disrepair, however you want to evaluate it. And we don't currently have any type of a policy with respect to how we manage or how we discern the different lease agreements with the different properties. And I thought it was pertinent for a discussion with the board to begin kind of a conversation on whether we should take a number of different approaches. One approach would be to continue doing what we're doing and simply develop some type of rental policy. Second option or approach would be to look towards raising the properties and basically turning them into vacant land, so to speak, and then do something with the land, that would be less intrusive with respect to a building or anything. And the other option would be to invest money back into the properties to make them upgraded to some degree towards more of a presentable rental type, residential rental options. There's been a lot of evaluation. We've done some looking at some different costs associated with some improvements, but also what we've actually put into them already. And I know that that's kind of where we're at right now. Looking for some direction from the board, whether we want to continue renting them or as they become vacant to just move to keeping them vacant and raising them at that point. So I just basically wanted to open the discussion up to the board to get some input so that if we're going to continue, that we can then develop a formal policy. If not, develop an exit strategy for the properties themselves. So I can answer any questions that the board may have, or hear some suggestions with respect to a policy and how to develop it.
It wasn't our intent, or the board's intent, to have rental properties when they purchase these properties. I mean, the houses were just there, so it wasn't like we bought them to have rental income from the houses that sat on the properties.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that would be the intent. Again, our purpose and our mission is not, we're a public utility, we're not a residential property owner, so to speak, and that would not be part of our mission or of our purpose. The purpose mainly for buying the properties was to provide either a buffer or a expansion space for our existing facilities. Because we hadn't had the need for expanding those facilities, obviously, was probably the reason that instead of leaving them vacant and in disrepair, we put some tenants in them on a temporary basis. All of the leases are month to month, so there was no long-term intent when the properties were leased out in the first place.
Which one is open?
The Butler Street property is now vacant. It was vacated at the end of December.
And I think originally my take on it is, we bought the property as the buffer. The home just happened to be there. I'm sure we're never gonna sell these homes. In other words, do we keep them up to resell them to make money, or that's not I don't think that's ever been the utility's intent, because we still want to keep that property, as Rob said, for either a buffer or for expansion.
I think it's difficult to, because on one hand, as a city, then effectively is a landlord, and I don't want to be a slumlord as a city and represent, there's lots of concern about blight within our community and economic development, and I certainly don't want to have that. So on one hand, I would like to invest in the properties to make them look nice if we're going to rent them, but on the other hand, if I'm going to tear it down, why would I invest money in it to do that? So that doesn't make sense. So unless there's an exit strategy at some point that it wears itself out, but I'd certainly like it to look nice on the outside, for the city's sake and the property values for the homes that surround it. And I don't know, I guess I'd have to go out and look more at those. I guess each one of us would have to take time to go look at them as we drive by in that neighborhood.
I have a question, and that is in regard to our responsibility to it, or the legality of ownership. Since the city owns them, is there any kind of new laws that have gone into effect that negatively affects us as owners of these properties, or being landlords?
Seeing as I am not a legal expert, I'm going to defer that question, if I may, to the law director.
There are no differences for us in being a landlord versus a private entity. We do have insurance on them. Of course, I'm hoping that the renters have renter's insurance, but we have, natural liability issues that anyone would have as a landlord.
If we keep them, would we want to look at improving the lease?
Yeah, again, if we were to stay in the residential leasing business, it would be my recommendation to both improve the language in the lease, and again, if we're going to lease them on a continuing basis, then we would also want to make some improvements to the properties of the residences themselves, and to varying degrees of what is needed to make them habitable in a sense where we're not having to go in and do repairs for the tenant every month or something because of the condition of a bathroom, a furnace, or a hot water tank.
And again, I'm sure that's gonna reflect the rental income. In other words, I've been kind of going over what we have to put in, opposed to what,
Yeah,
the rents have never changed.
The rents are relatively low compared to the market, but again, the condition of the properties are not very high-end either.
Right. That's true.
Would it be a practical idea to deal with these through attrition? I mean, we've got an empty one now, and like you said, they're all in different states of repair. And having been one of the people that did the walkthroughs on the properties last summer, got a pretty good idea which ones are, I don't know if you want to say the nicer ones of the bunch. And I guess it so happens that the one that's vacant now is probably one of the nicer ones. And I guess what I'm getting at is that if we would decide to keep it, it would probably take the least amount of money to make it nice. And I don't know if it would be an idea to offer that house for rent to one of the other renters that lives in, exactly, yeah. And then take care of that one, get one of the more expensive ones, I guess you say.
Well, I guess from my perspective, if we're going to continue renting houses, then this would be an option that we could improve a vacant house, ask one of our existing tenants to move into the improved house, and then deal with the house that was then vacated and decide whether to approve that. And then, you know,
Well, I
do
guess
a chain of events with the properties.
I guess that's where I was going, and I guess maybe I didn't clarify,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would, yeah, pick the, I don't know.
The other option is
Yeah,
the exit
exactly,
strategy was
just-
as
yeah.
they become vacant, to raise them and.
It wouldn't be long, we'd own 3 properties.
Yes.
And we'd have one property, green space.
Right. Yeah, again, that's kind of the direction I'm looking for as an you know, the director is to,
Just a thought.
what would you prefer as a board, that we stay in the business or work on an exit strategy, or through attrition possibly move out of the business itself? But you're right, with respect to the condition of the properties, probably the vacant one is certainly not in the worst of conditions
No.
of the 4 properties. So,
Have we had an inspector go through any of them and determine whether it's up to code?
we
in
have
any
not had a
respects?
formal building inspector go through and evaluate homes with respect to the current building code, although I'm not sure that's a requirement, but it's certainly not something that we should ignore. There's not a point of sale or a rental inspection requirement for the city of Bryan.
You know, this question's for the mayor, probably, maybe Judy who's here. Have you been approached by the city side from realtors or other people, organizations about rental apartment qualifications and or regulations, inspections before they can be on the market?
Not really,
Not any discussion about that?
no.
Okay.
The fire chief might get involved if there are sprinkler systems and upper floor, things like that. For rentals, it's more rentals of downtown buildings than we have with residential. I don't think we're in residential at all.
I don't know, I guess, there's some more things I gotta think about. I would personally like to go through these properties. I've
Okay.
only been, of course,
We can schedule that. I'm not asking for the board to make any decisions tonight,
Right.
obviously. I would like some direction on the vacant property though, because we do have 2 issues with that one, whether we look to make improvements to it. We've got a contractor on hold, and whether we want to actually field any of the requests that we've had for, to rent it. We've had 5 or 6 requests to rent the property, and we've not entertained them because I wanted to formally have the board review the property program first. So, should we hold off on the contractor and hold off on renting the property, is probably until we maybe come up with more definite idea of what we'd wanna do.
Where are we with the repairs that were set up?
We have not done anything at this point to the Butler Street
Okay.
property. We have a contractor and an estimate for some repairs, but we have not done any of them.
Can
They
you
did,
tell us what those are?
They involved bringing some part of the property up to code with some hand railings and to remodel the bathroom. The bathroom's not in very good condition.
Dollar amount?
It's probably good to point out to the public that based on your revenues, other than the 2013 property purchase, you've about recovered your cost of purchase.
Correct.
So
yeah.
that's good. Good to know.
We're close.
I mean, this
Tell us
is,
about the extent for the estimate for those repairs for the contractor.
It's,
Is it $2,000?
it's between $2,000 and $3,000 is the estimate we have.
Oh, I like Jim's idea.
Well, I kind of go with Dick, I'd just like some time to think. I'm
Yeah, I
not
got-
stuck on any one
Mhm.
idea. I just like to maybe have a meeting of the minds here.
And we can also, I can't have you all in at once, but we can schedule a couple different days where we can have various inspections of the house if the board like to look at the properties individually.
I mean, I like your idea,
We have
Jim.
3 tenants, so I have to arrange, times with the tenants to go in the properties.
Yeah. I mean, I like Jim's idea if we stay in the rental business.
Yeah, I guess that's what we need to
Put
decide.
some money in that one, give the other renters the option of renting that one, and then we'll do, if we do that, but I
Now,
I don't
keep,
like-
keep in mind, what the quote I just gave you is bare minimum repairs.
yeah,
It's not really making the house nice.
yeah.
It's bare minimal.
Well, when we did the inspections, our main concern was liability. Anything we need, like handrails. I know stairways. There's a deck that we put a handrail on. It's things like that. Just nothing extravagant. Just more safety and liability than anything. I mean, there was some other things that even the contractor recommended, and we kind of put on the back, put a Band-Aid on it for now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think ultimately we're gonna have to kick, I need a little more time. I need to think some things over. Like I said, I'd like to go through the properties and.
But it's only on the agenda as a discussion
Yeah.
item. There's no action that's being requested of you.
I would like to also wait on renting it out
Okay?
at this time until
Until
we
we make a
decide
decision.
whether we want to.
That would be my preference.
If we did decide to stay in the business, would it be out of line to bring the lease agreements or whatever? 'Cause I don't know anything about, I've never been a landlord. As far as bringing like the lease agreements and things up to speed and.
That would be my recommendation. Yeah, we would certainly have
And maybe
a.
some, I don't know if we adjust the rents.
We don't have an escalator clause in any of our rental agreements, nor do we have a sunset date in any of them. So, there should be a definite term with renewal options, but there should also be some type of, we've got one agreement that's a number of years old that is a month-to-month agreement, and it's never changed. Now, it's not to say it should have gone up or down, but there's, without a 30-day notice, of us to tell somebody that we want you to vacate, then somebody could be in the house for 15 years with the same agreement.
I would suggest keeping month to month, so if you decide you wanna get rid of it,
Right.
you
you're
only
not-
have to give 30 days
you're not to
notice.
lease.
Which is good,
Yeah.
the issue is,
Yeah.
is there gonna be after so many months where the rent can be adjusted or anything like that? We could always look at language like that. The other thing is, as the law director has pointed out, we only recommend that they have rental insurance. We could make it a requirement.
Can we do that?
I don't,
If it's agreed to in the agreement, but you've got agreements in place with these people already, so if it's not in there,
right.
So they'd have to sign a new agreement.
right.
Or an addendum to this original agreement is what you're asking, potentially.
Right, but again, if we're going to develop a policy, it would be for any new agreement.
Yeah.
And, if it's the
So if they don't want to
option
sign
to improve a property, ask them to move into an improved property, then that would be a new agreement.
if they don't want to sign the new agreement as well, then you're good to go.
30 days.
Is that,
Not necessarily.
not necessarily?
Yeah, the whole eviction process is a whole other
Sure.
game.
I guess
So-
that's why I asked about the lease adjustments and things like that, how much we're allowed to change things in the middle of the game.
Yeah, that's something we need to look into. Also, lease agreements, pet clauses, where do we go? want somebody in there with like 2 big dogs doing whatever they do inside that house, then we gotta pay to repair that when they move out. You know, I guess that's all a bunch of things we have to look at.
I don't think that, you know, when we were elected to these positions, being a landlord was one of the qualifications. And maybe that's obvious in our questions and whatnot, maybe just by that, we need to be out of the business, based on what we know is very limited, when not many of us have experience in it.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we kind of table this thing and until we get some more information.
There's no action required on
No.
it, so.
I think we'd try and keep it on the agenda if I would, Rob, just to make sure.
Okay,
we bring it back.
with respect for more information is really the next step of information is touring the properties. Is there anything beyond touring the houses that you would want me to collect?
I would like to see the lease agreements also,
Okay.
the current ones that we have.
Okay.
I'd like to know also if there are some major issues that need to be dealt with, in regard to repairs
Okay.
or upgrading. Or even some, you know, a tally of all the minor ones that would really need to be done to bring them up to a decent standard of housing, like you were saying.
Okay. Everybody has a different definition of that,
Yeah,
I
true.
think, is that's
Yeah.
my challenge. And, you know, in the price point we're at, the repairs would not be very, very much, you know, relatively speaking to the value of the houses. You know, if we go to a higher price point, the repairs would be significantly higher. And, we're at the bottom end of the rental market. And you can use whatever language you want to interpret that, but we're at the bottom end of
Yes.
the rental market. I'm not gonna use the term that's normally used in a public meeting. So that would
The
be.
rent's very affordable.
That would be a decision that we would need to make if we wanna continue doing residential property leasing. But I can let you know what the minimum repairs and estimates
Yeah.
are for the properties. We have done evaluation on that.
Yeah, just it wouldn't have to be accurate, just a ballpark figure type.
Okay. Close the book on that topic.
Yeah.
For now.
For now, yeah, I think we'll just discuss this, and like I said, I'd like to go through them, check the rental.
Okay.
Lease
Just-
agreements.
Just for the record, we are going to continue the Butler Street property in as-is status and not lease it and not
Yeah.
invest any money at this point.
That's a good idea. I mean, everybody okay with that? To be continued. Any other discussion or?
No.
Next on the agenda is motion to pay the bills.
I'll make a motion, we pay the bills.
I'll second.
Jim?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
We're gonna pay the bills.
Next will be comments from BPA and staff. Rob?
I have a few, I'll try to keep them brief. First, I'm off to my first AMP Ohio meeting tomorrow morning, so wish me luck. You're going with me, Mr. Chairman, so you shouldn't have a problem with that. Second, there's a grant available for a summer intern through DEED, which is part of the American Public Power Association program. The deadline for making application is February 15th. I'd like to make applications for an intern, summer intern for a scholarship program. I believe it pays up to about $3,500, so we would be able to, if we want some additional summer intern, we've done one in the past, but we can do a second one and not actually have to pay the expense. I'd like permission from the board to apply for a grant for that internship, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Just a reminder, the 70th Annual Bryan Chamber of Commerce Banquet is January 26th, and we do have a number of board members attending, so we're looking forward to that. Next, I would like to request an HR meeting of the board, so, not of the board, but of the HR committee, and that would be the chairman and the co-chairman. So if you can let me know what a reasonable or a good date would be for an HR meeting, I'd like to talk to you about that. Year-end reports for the departments, we are scheduling those for February 7th, which would be our next meeting. And the utility financial solutions presentation for the rate study, that is gonna be on February 21st. That's the first that they are available for that, so we'll have a presentation at that meeting. And the report, I will get you a copy of the report before, at least a week before the meeting. There's some numbers that we've been going back and forth on for the last several weeks, and I got the final draft numbers today, so the report should be completed for the board review. And finally, I am working on more options for the AMI program, collecting information. We did have a preliminary discussion with AMP on their program, and as the board knows, there was a letter of interest sent, an intent sent last year, but we have not done anything more than that. So I have had some discussion with our staff on what their input is, and within the next 4 to 6 weeks, I hope to have enough information for a review and recommendation for the board on how to proceed with the AMI program. That's all I have.
Thank you, Rob. Mayor?
I'm gonna be short tonight since our meeting is at 7 o'clock. We're following you tonight, so we're doing our, I'm doing my State of the City tonight, and then February, March, with the other 6 departments, they'll be doing their annual reports in those time frames. I think the first week in April, then we wanna come back with the same study that you had on the GIS. We thought that was very good, and what our city, what we're doing in that, we'd like to do that for the council's presentation in the first week in April, so takes us, we're moving right along.
Good.
That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Mayor.
How many geese did you say you had?
61.
61. Okay.
Is that gonna be in the State of the City report?
Well, yeah, better write that down.
Rhonda?
The $3,500 grant, you probably should take a motion on that since you're receiving public funds for that.
That's-
Okay, do we need to, just to make application, or once we receive it?
Is there anything in writing that's gonna come back to the board?
Yes, once we get it.
Okay, you can do it at that time.
Mac, we can do it now, then I don't have to come back to the board.
Whichever, but there should be probably some formal action taken on that.
Okay.
That makes sense. I'll make a motion that we
Chairman,
allow.
let somebody else do.
I'll make a
Okay.
motion that we apply for the fund.
Second.
Jim?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Thank you.
Laura?
No, sir.
Jackie? Ms. Harris? Bryan Times?
Nothing from the media.
Jim?
No, I'm not gonna break the chain.
Tom?
Max, good article in the paper about our presentation on GIS that we had. Pardon me?
Good presentation, makes it easy.
Well,
Yeah.
pictures were good, it came out good, story was
Yeah,
good.
it did come up
Mr. Pepple?
I got nothing.
Jeez, I'm shy.
I know, why not?
Karen?
It's a quiet start to the first of the year. Nothing from me, thanks.
And not much for me. I see the Good Neighbor Fund is still healthy. But we could use some more donations, but we appreciate all that we get. That's all for me. That's per contract.
go into recess.
Okay.
Karen?
Yes.
Jim? Dick?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Thank you.